All right, so get this. Today we are diving deep into Domina tu mente, which, by the way, means master your mind.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, and you guys sent in some review excerpts, and honestly, there were good and bad takes, which I love.
Oh, spicy.
Right, but to really get the full picture, we also snagged the Kindle edition ourselves.
Nice.
So by the time we're done here, you'll know if this 30-day guide, the whole positive habits and willpower thing, is really for you.
I like it. Get right to the point.
Right. No time to waste.
Yeah.
And honestly, some of the stuff we found, well, let's just say it was seriously intriguing.
Okay, you've got me hooked. What jumped out at you?
Okay, so right off the bat, what struck me was how this book, it's not just throwing random tips at you.
Okay, so there's some actual structure.
Oh, tons. It's super deliberately structured into 5 weeks, each one kind of building on the last.
I see. So it's like a system, almost.
Exactly, like step by step. It starts with you understanding your current habits, then bam, you move into cultivating a more positive mindset.
I like it. Building blocks.
Right. But it doesn't stop there. Then it dives into, like, finding your why, your purpose.
Okay, getting deep now.
Right. But then it tackles the real challenge, like actually sticking with these new habits.
The hard part for most people, honestly.
For sure. And to wrap it all up, it ends with reflection and planning for the future.
Huh. That S is pretty smart.
Right. Now, I can totally see why that reviewer was raving about the structure. They were all about how easy it is to make those small, meaningful changes because of how it's laid out. But gotta ask you, does it ever get too rigid? I mean, with all this structure, what about those of us who like to shake things up?
Oh, that's a good point, actually. And it's funny you mention that because the reviewer did say the structure might feel kind of repetitive, especially if you're already familiar with all the habit building stuff.
I get it.
It definitely seems geared towards people who want that clear system to follow, step by step.
Makes total sense. Okay, so we've got the structure thing down. But there's this other element that I found super interesting. So the book, it actually encourages you to involve your friends or family, like almost like a support group.
Whoa, that's different.
Right. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's fascinating. On one hand, there's tons of research showing that having an accountability buddy can really help you succeed when you're trying to build new habits.
Yeah, I can see that.
But then again, I can totally see how some people would feel like it's too much pressure.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like maybe they prefer to do the personal growth thing solo. And actually, the review even mentioned that this could be a turnoff for some people.
Huh. So we're already seeing this book might not be for everyone, even though it has its good points.
Yeah, it's making me think about what I look for in a self-help book,
Totally. And I'm curious about you listening. Do you thrive on group support, or are you more of a lone wolf on your self-improvement journey?
It's a great question, and it really highlights how personal development is truly an individual thing.
Absolutely. What works for one person might not work for another, and that's totally okay.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so let's jump into some of the criticisms from that review. One thing that popped up was that the 30-day time frame might not be enough for people who are looking for a radical overnight transformation.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, this book definitely seems to be more focused on gradual changes over time.
Which, again, might resonate with some folks more than others.
So true. No magic bullet here, just good old-fashioned effort and consistency.
Yep, gotta put in the work.
Speaking of which, the review mentioned this secret revealed at the end of the book. Anything juicy you can spill?
Well, secret might be a strong word. It's more of a core principle that drives the whole thing.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Basically, it emphasizes that willpower, it's not built through these big, dramatic things. It's about those small, consistent actions.
Ooh, I like that. Reminds me of that saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
Exactly. Big changes happen when we focus on those seemingly insignificant daily actions.
So this book really applies that to personal growth.
Interesting. Okay, I'm officially intrigued. We talked about the structured approach, the pros and cons, even a little secret at the end. But before we go any further, how can our listeners actually get their hands on this book?
Well, first of all, it's available in English and Spanish, which is great for our bilingual listeners. But here's the kicker.
Hit me.
There's a free Kindle version.
Wait, hold up. Free E. So you're saying I can try out this whole journey of mastering my mind without spending a dime?
Precisely. It's a perfect way to see if the book's approach is for you before you even think about buying the full version. And guess what, the link to that free Kindle version is right in the show notes.
All right, everyone listening, you know I'm all about that value. Make sure you check out that link in the show notes. It's literally free knowledge just waiting for you. But before you do, let's take a closer look at what each week in Dominate Mente actually looks like.
Let's do it. All right, welcome back, everyone. So are you ready to dive into the actual 30 days of Dominate Mente? Oh, absolutely. Last time we were all about the structure and the pros and cons. But now I want the juicy details. What actually happens?
Okay, so week 1, it's all about laying the foundation. Think introspection.
Okay, so like looking inward.
Exactly. The book guides you through exercises that help you see your habits as they are. The good, the bad, and maybe even some you don't want to admit.
Uh-oh, the self-awareness stage.
Uh,
Always a little scary.
right. It's like you can't change what you don't even realize you're doing.
So true. And the book, how does it address this?
Well, there's this great line, knowledge is power. Basically, you need to understand your patterns before you can even think about changing them.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've had our reality check. What's next? Week 2.
Week 2 gets into building a more positive mindset. So we're talking the power of self-talk, practicing gratitude, and learning how to focus on solutions, not problems.
Okay, so like flipping the script.
Yes. They even talk about cognitive reframing, basically changing how you think about things.
So it's not just about habits, but about changing your thought patterns too.
Right on. And they give you specific techniques to try, replacing negative self-talk with affirmations, keeping a gratitude journal, that kind of stuff.
Cool, cool. So week 3, we're more self-aware, our mindset is shifting. What's next?
This is where it gets interesting. Week 3 dives into purpose. It's all about your why.
Okay, finding your motivation.
Exactly. And it gets into visualization techniques, strengthening resilience, because pursuing your goals isn't always easy.
Oh, tell me about it. I think we've all had those moments where we're
Yeah.
like, why am I even bothering?
Having a strong sense of purpose, it's like having a North Star guiding you. Makes
Okay.
it easier to stay on track.
Love that analogy.
Sure.
Okay, so on to week 4. Is this where the real work begins?
You got it. Week 4 is all about consistency and pushing through. It's about learning how to be more disciplined and getting past those obstacles that always pop up.
Okay, let me guess. Lots of procrastination advice.
Actually, it's more about figuring out your procrastination style and then creating systems to beat it.
Oh, interesting. So it's like personalized strategies.
Yeah. For example, they talk about using implementation intentions. They're like if-then plans. So if you want to procrastinate, then you have a plan to combat it.
I see. So you're not just relying on willpower, you have a backup plan.
Right. And that goes back to the whole idea of building systems. Willpower can come and go, but a system helps you stay consistent.
Okay, so we've faced ourselves, found our positivity, connected with our purpose, and learned how to keep going even when it's tough. What's left? Week 5, the grand finale.
Week 5 is all about celebrating your wins and planning what's next. The book emphasizes recognizing your accomplishments, which is so important.
Oh, for sure. It's so easy to forget to celebrate the wins. We're always on to the next thing.
Right. And celebrating those wins, even the little ones, it keeps you motivated. And it's a great confidence boost, too.
Absolutely. So it sounds like Domino Mente isn't just a quick fix. It's like a roadmap for making lasting changes.
Yeah.
And, that brings us back to that free Kindle version.
Yes. Seriously, if any of this sounds interesting to you, do yourself a favor and check out that free version.
No risk, all reward. I love it.
You can get a feel for the concepts, see if it clicks for you, and like we mentioned, you can find that link in the show notes.
Seriously, guys, don't miss out on that. Free knowledge. Okay, but before you run off to download it, let's take a moment to think about everything we've discussed. What's been resonating with you? What sparked your curiosity? We'll be back after the break to chat about it. Okay, so we're back, and I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into Domino Mente. I feel like we've explored so much, from the structure to the pros and cons, and of course, what you actually do during those 30 days.
Yeah, it's been a pretty in-depth journey. One thing that really stands out to me is how the book manages to be both practical and insightful. It's not just about telling you to do this or that. It really helps you understand the why behind it all.
Totally agree. And I think it's really interesting how they weave this idea of small, consistent actions throughout the whole 30 days. Like, it's not about some huge life overhaul. It's more about those tiny changes
Yeah,
that can eventually lead to big transformations.
exactly. And I think that's a really powerful message. It makes personal growth feel much more, I don't know, attainable, less overwhelming,
Oh, absolutely. But like we said before, this approach might not click with everyone. Some people, they might want that really intense change everything right now kind of experience. So I think the big question for our listeners is, does this pace and approach feel right for you?
Totally. It's all about finding what works for your personality and what you're hoping to achieve. And that's another reason why having that free Kindle version is so awesome.
Seriously, you can try it out with zero risk. No need to buy anything until you're sure it's a good fit.
Exactly. And we've made it super easy to find. Just click that link in the show notes and you can start exploring the book right away.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought to ponder. What if the real challenge isn't finding the perfect self-help book, but actually putting the ideas into action? I mean, think about your own experiences. Where do you usually trip up? Maybe you struggle with staying consistent, or maybe you get discouraged easily. Domino Tumite might have some tools and strategies to help you overcome those obstacles, but ultimately, it all comes down to you taking that first step. So grab the free Kindle version, give it a read, and see if it inspires you to start a new chapter in your personal growth journey. You can find the link right in the show notes. Happy reading, everyone!